Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 9 of the Let's Face It podcast. This is my journey with Arron Graffin. Before we get into it, just want to plug our live event, which is on the 12th of January 2023, our first live event, which is going to be brilliant, an evening with a purpose. It's good to talk, it's good to listen. There's only a couple of tickets left, but I'll put the link below, and if you want to come along, buy a ticket. There's some fantastic guests. For the first half, we'll have Kieran May. He's going to talk about goal setting and visualisation, along with Stephen Floyd, a nutritionist who's been in the Premier League, and he works with all the top boxers around Belfast at the minute. And in the second half, we're going to have our own very live podcast. We're going to have Annette Kelly from Little Penny Thoughts, our friend Neil McManus. We're going to have Conor Mailer and Mick Conlon, of course, who was out there last Saturday night fighting in the Odyssey. So so really exciting times for Let's Face It, and if you want to buy a ticket and come along, please do, but I don't think they'll be hanging around for that much longer. So what's the crack, Arron?
All good.
An absolute honour to have you on. I know I've been trying to get you on for a while, and I suppose for any of my followers who don't I suppose know you, like we had Sambo McNaughton on, someone who you're very close with. I thought, like we mentioned there, Neil McManus, two people who are probably, obviously they're from the same area as you, but in terms of like Antrim greats are right up there, and they're in the media and they're in the public eye. But you're someone that I've always looked at, and I suppose I've had the pleasure of actually marking you a couple of times, which hasn't resulted in my favour all of the times. But I suppose from the outside looking into your life and your career, like, my dad's even played against you. I just think that you're not in the public eye, and you're not one of those people. You don't seem to, it doesn't really seem to faze you that much, but you just seem so interesting in terms of any time that I've seen you growing up. Throughout each year, you've always sort of had an injury, you're always on crutches, but by the time sort of county final day came around, by the time Ulster Championship came around, Arron Graffin was there, like with strapped up or fucking hand gloves on or whatever, but he was there, and an absolute warrior. And it's funny, I was texting Neil yesterday about you, and I says, will you do me a favour? And now he's wrote me nearly half a fucking book, like, but just a couple of things, like, and he says about your leadership, his resilience is unparalleled. I know so many players who were going to be the best player in the county, only for, I suppose, their injury that set them back. And it's so often we hear it now in pubs or whatever, we walk in and you hear people saying, only for I done my cruciate, only this happened, I would have been the best player in the county. But he said Graff had all the worst injuries twice, and he still continued to be the best defender in the province. He says, we were christening on the same day in Cusendall, born 2 days apart, played at all levels together, and even represent Ireland in the Shinty together. The only player I ever saw, you give Rory Jacob, who is from Wexford, obviously, or Ocean down below there. So he's a great fella, a man, a good man, someone I admire a huge amount. I'm one of the worst table tennis players ever. But he said an awful lot more. But I think even in terms of leadership and the type of person you are, and it's something that obviously from the outside of your life looking in, but the whole idea of this podcast is this is my journey with, and I suppose we'll maybe just get stuck in and start from the start, and who you came from and where you came from, and how that all came about for you.
Yeah, I suppose, well, say I'm from Cusendall. Growing up, my family weren't steeped in GAA, weren't steeped in hurling. I came from sort of a background where my father was from Larne, my mother was from Cusendall, but flipping wouldn't know what a hurling stick is. Do you know what I mean? That wasn't their family. And, I didn't pick up a hurling stick till I was probably P7, till I was about 10 years of age. Like, I was more into actually swimming and things like that, but I think I was asked to go to a blitz primary 7, and I absolutely loved it. I never looked back really since then. Then I joined the Cusendall club and just sort of grew from there, so I was never the most natural talented hurler. Like, my age group had Shane McNaughton, Paddy McGill, Neil McManus, guys who were unbelievable, but I just seemed as a young lad, I always just was very driven, very determined, always wanted to become the best version of myself, always try to challenge myself and just see how I could go and how could I get, like, and I feel I did that, and I had a lot of setbacks with injuries and things like that there, and still tried to hammer on and continue to be as best as I could with the tools I was given. And like what one thing I tried to do was specialise in a certain area of the pitch. Like, I was an out and out defender. Like, I knew my limits, I wasn't the type of player who's going to flick a ball over your head and stick it over the bar like Shane or Neil could do. I knew my limits, and I just wanted to really specialise in doing them to a very high level. So one of the things I always prided myself on was being consistent and trying to be as consistent I could be throughout my club season and throughout even playing for Antrim. And through that consistency, it just meant that I was, in a corner-back position and always got the task of marking maybe a flyer or a really good forward. But that was something I enjoyed. So I relished that challenge of doing that. I've marked some absolute great hurlers, and I've got my fair share of roastings too. But one thing about me when I was playing, I was never a flying machine. I was never a speed demon, but I could read the game quite well. And I was quite sharp too, so I could try to get to the ball first. When I was in my prime, that is, it's a bit harder now. But that was something I always tried to. I think I always had in my toolkit. Was that reading of a game and trying to know where the ball was going to be, that anticipation, that perception, and that awareness around me. And then the sort of basic skills that come with hurling, in terms of hook and block and tackling, all them things. I tried to hone them to a high level. Because I knew I wasn't a forward, I knew I wasn't an out-and-out scorer. I knew what I could do, and I was very clear that in my mind.
It's funny, and the only thing that I could really think of there is, I think Roy Keane said it in Monday Night Football, no one wants to grow up to be a Gary Neville. And it's whenever you're a kid, you're watching hurling or whatever, you're watching people down in Cusendall and you're seeing maybe, the Sambos of this world and, McFatridge or whatever who was playing on the 89 team, all these people who are really attractable and you would be like, I want to be like that when I grow up. Even I can only think of kids now who are probably looking at the Antrim team and being like, I want to be like Kobe or Keelan or McManus or whatever when they grow up. Not everyone wants to be whoever, like an Al O'Connor or whatever, in that context. But I suppose what I'm trying, even like in a soccer scene, you see kids watching TV and they want to be like Ronaldo. And that's sort of my point about the Gary Neville thing. But so, at what point or how did you have the sort of maturity, or how did you make that decision where you knew your limits? Because it's very often, even in today's society, even with parents, you see it like building their kids up to be, and you see it in development squads and all too, and you see parents going, he's in the under 4, why is he not starting, why is he not doing that, why is he not the best player? Because maybe in the club he is. But how did you make that sort of conscious decision, subconsciously maybe, that these were your limits?
You said about parents there, and you said about them building. I think there's a problem with parents, in terms of not allowing their children to fail enough. I was very comfortable with failure from a very young age, because I was dropped from I think it was an under 16 development squad, going to an All-Ireland final. I had a couple of big disappointments around that age, so I quickly realised that this is going to be part and parcel of your career. There's going to be failures, there's going to be setbacks, there's going to be disappointments. Just get with it and be strong with it, okay? Because if you let that annoy you or let it derail you, you might not hurl again. So I get very comfortable with failure and things like that from a very young age. So that probably gave me the self-awareness of what I could do and what I couldn't do. And looking around at lads, young people they're not stupid. They're very self-aware too. They can see things, and I could see the likes of a McManus, or I could see the likes of a Shane McNaughton, boys like that there, what they could do. I knew I couldn't do it, and that was fair enough. But the other thing I suppose about it for me was I was a late bloomer, in terms of adolescence. We would have been 16 years of age, and I really probably looked like a 12 or 13-year-old in terms of physical size. I didn't hit puberty till I was late. So, whenever McManus and them lads were 16, they were men. They were 18-year-olds. Do you know what I mean? So, biologically, yes, I was that age, but physiologically, I was much younger. So I had to try to do something different to try to stay at their level, because they had a physical ability over me. So I had to maybe try to change my game a wee bit. So that's why I tried to hone in and maybe being technically very good or tactically very good, and not relying on my physical attributes at that age. But then when you get a bit older and you get through that stage and you grow and you hit your growth spurt and you start to fill out and stuff like that, the physical size then came. But then I maybe had a couple of skills in my toolkit that I had learned whenever I was maybe a wee bit smaller and a wee bit weaker, and then I used that in my own career when I sort of grew a wee bit.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that, because Neil actually said as well, we played at Ballycastle in the Field final, which is under 14, and Graff, yourself, was only playing about 2 years at that stage. I was our biggest player. I was running scared of Ryan Donnelly, who's of course Matty's big brother, all day the managers, who was Neil's dad, Q, and Jackie Carson. so they were fucking slating Neil all day, but they had to switch you onto him, and you're only a wee tiny thing, as you've just said, like, and you hung on to him for dear life for the rest of the match.
I remember that Ryan Donnelly, like at under 14, he was a man, big hairy legs, like he was a huge man. He's the same size he is now, like he's like about Matty Donnelly, and at that age he just to run through us, like, do you know what I mean, for fun. McManus, he was a big lad too, so he was on him, but I know whatever that day that was, I just had a sort of resilience, a sort of desire, determination sort of thing. I don't know why, but I just did, and like I was tiny, do you know what I mean? So I was just hanging on to his heels, maybe just trying to flick and hit him or something, do you know? But
it even
spoiler.
says, it even says, like, because you summed it up perfectly, and that's why I was smiling at you, because Neil then obviously summed it up perfectly, and even going on then through, you know, into the minor and maybe going to university and stuff like that, that obviously stood to you.
Yeah,
I suppose are not even. Like, I talk a lot about the relationship that sport and physical exercise can have with everyday daily life, and only from my experience, like, I often say about sticking with the winners and stuff like that, and that's why, you know, like, I spend a lot of time with Neil, because I know he's a winner and I know he wants to do well, and you know, that vibration, like your vibe, attract your tribe or whatever, do you know what I mean? And I'm very passionate about that, but on the other side of it, like, you having to be so resilient, and, you know, having the, you weren't gifted with all these abilities in terms of your strength and your size or your skill or your power, but you had something in your heart, and how did that stand to you, I suppose, in daily life in terms of growing up and overcoming challenges with outside of sport?
Yeah, I suppose I always had a glass half full sort of approach to it. Like, you know, whatever happened, I was always quite cool, calm and collected, contained. Like, you know, anytime you had a big win, I was obviously delighted, but I never got too high. Anytime we had a loss, I never got too low either, do you know what I mean? So I always was at there sort of even keel of just being really, really collected in my thoughts, do you know what I mean? But in terms of the resilience sort of side of things, I don't know, I always had a positive mental attitude, do you know? And even in terms of the injuries, you know, if you wreck your knee, for example, like, it doesn't mean you can't go into the gym and do upper body, do you know what I mean? I always looked at a setback or an obstacle like that there was an opportunity nearly for something else. So, you know, if you can't do something physically, well, can you do something technically or technically? Can you sharpen your mind? Can you do something else? Like, so, you know, that's why I sort of look at it like if you think about a locked door, and you have a bunch of keys in your hands, and you know one of them keys open that door, but you don't know which one it is. It could be the first one you try, it could be the last one you try. Do you know what I mean? There's a solution to every problem, sort of thing, and that's why, you know, anytime I do get injured, like, it's all right to be pissed off and be annoyed, but I sort of go with this 24-hour rule thing, that be annoyed, be pissed off for a day, see after that, let it go, get the head up, and let's go for the next thing, whatever's in the horizon. Let's get a process in place and let's get at it. And that could be anything. That could be going for a job interview and not getting it. That could be an injury. It could be anything in life. But just, you know, having a process and getting back on the horse and getting at whatever you're trying to do, you know, small steps. So I think that's really important.
It's so important, absolutely. And even in my life, I spent a lot of the times, you know, with self-pity, you know, because of the cards that I was dealt with from a child or whatever, and I was using that. Not that it was wrong because I was a child, you know what I mean? But on reflection, it's what you're saying is, like, now that I have a window of maybe whenever I have a day when I'm thinking about drink, or maybe when the chimp's saying to me, like, that you're not good enough, it's like what you say again is, right, I have a toolbox here, going to get the toolbox, how did I deal with this before? So instead of them thoughts being then turning into periods rather than, you know, could maybe ruin my week, now it's an hour. It's like, right, go into the toolbox, pick these things out, and now then get on with it, you know what I mean? Because I've dealt with this before. But you mentioned injuries there, like, and you just talked about it, and you're like, right, I have a 24-hour window, but like, you got your first injury in 2015 against Antrim.
For Antrim against Westmeath,
against Westmeath, and, you know, which then started a spiral throughout, I suppose, maybe your whole career, right? Up and even last year you were injured and you were touch and go, and like, it's okay saying that, and there's one thing that I've learned over the last number of years is there's one thing talking about it, but doing something about it's a completely different kettle of fish. But saying that you have this window of 24 hours, but whenever these injuries just keep happening and happening, was there ever a moment, Arron, where you're just fuck this, like?
You'd be crippled with self-doubt, and you'd be crippled with anxiety, and there's confidence issues and all that. That's all totally normal. Like, you know, whenever a person gets injured, there's so many emotions go through you. There's fear, there's anger, there's, you know, everything, and that's one thing you need to understand is that is totally normal. But after that, normalising them feelings, it's then about trying to get a process, like, and be annoyed, like, it's part and parcel of contact sport, like, you can't do much about it, it just happens, like. And one thing that I've learned, and probably just from experience of being injured, is just, you know, let's get a process in place to get back. You know, if it's 6 weeks, or if it's 2 months, or if it's 6 months, whatever that means, let's get a process in place. And a lot of the time when you're injured, maybe yourself don't, like, you feel isolated a wee bit. You're maybe in the gym on your own, and you're like, I have to do these reps.
At the minute, to be honest.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, it is tough, and you feel on your own. But most of the time, you're actually not. You're not on your own, because there's a support system there to help you in terms of your coaches, in terms of your teammates, your friends, family, whoever that may be, and leaning on them for geez, I really don't want to do this rehab session. Well, your man can say, right, I'll do it with you. Right, happy days, and then that's another box ticked. Do you know what I mean? So there's usually a lot of support there to help you when you're injured, and it's about leaning on that support for the help, because that's definitely helped me. Another thing I sort of dabbled with, and I don't know if you've ever done this, is just like visualization and mental imagery.
I actually only started, to be honest with you, in the last 6 weeks, and it's changed my life.
Yeah, and
that's totally honest. It's changed my life in the way.
In what ways then?
So basically, it was like, I've been working with, I don't know whether I mentioned him at the start, a guy called Kieran May.
Yeah,
he was on my podcast too, and I've been working a lot with him. Even like, we haven't really spoke that much about sport, but it's how I view myself and my self-worth. And it's all like, you know, that I have a problem with my weight and stuff like that. I'm always up and down, and I'm round and round, and it's just like my relationship with food was terrible. So I replaced, getting out of rehab, more or less alcohol with food at the weekends. So it was like Friday night, if I seen someone on Instagram, it was like, right, bang, pizza. And then it was like Saturday, same again. And then it was Sunday, sure, it's Monday tomorrow, might as well, Sunday. So there was like 3 takeaways, there's 60 quid, there's like, and then what I done then, because Darren Gleeson was, we work a lot around my weight, because I know that if I'm sort of in half decent, if I get myself in good nick, then I'm thereabouts the team. Whereas if I'm not, then I'm nowhere near. So he's very much like, you know, get on the scales, you know, I'm constantly weekly checking. So it used to be every Monday and Tuesday, then I didn't fucking eat. Spent a couple of days in the sauna, trying to sweat it out with me, trying to overcompensate. So my relationship with all that, and then my self-worth, even with you know, from early childhood, in terms of trauma, I had an incapability of being able to love and be loved. And even in terms of girls, and it's something that I'm working on at the minute, in terms of actually letting girls into my life. I can't hold down a relationship, and I think it's important that one of my core values is honesty, and it's important for people to know this too. Do you know what I mean? So even like holding down relationships, how I view myself, am I good enough? I deserve to be loved? So all these things. And we done a thing around sort of, right, so where do you want to be? And I was like, right, so I want to be playing centre half forward front. I'm at 100 kilo. Do you know what I mean? Because that's I haven't been 100 kilos since I was sick here, like. And he was like, right, and what else do you want in terms of your work life? And I was like, well, someday I want Huamora, or I want, let's face it, to be a rehab centre in Belfast. So that's my goal, that's my end goal. And he was like, well, every day you live like you've achieved that goal. So I've visualised it. I go to bed every night being that person. I'm walking about now as if I am 100 kilo. Now, don't get me wrong, it doesn't turn you into 100 kilo. It's putting these things in place. Like you said, the process. So it's putting these processes in place to be that person. But we live in a society where we're like, I'll be happy when I get a promotion. I'll be happy when I lose a stone. I'll be happy when I finish my rehab. But why can I not be happy enjoying the process? So in the last 6 weeks, my whole life has sort of changed in terms of like, I'm actually walking about with my chest up because I know what's coming rather than fighting it. Does that make sense?
That resonates with me. It's sort of like the term, like, the journey's better than the destination. You know what I mean? Because you talk about this process, enjoy being in that process and being in that journey to where you want to get to, because a lot of time when you actually get to where you want it to, it's not as actually good as you thought it was going to be. Do you know what I mean? So it's about enjoying that journey to get wherever you want. And that's the same with being injured. You know what I mean? You're like, I want to be back in the pitch playing. But you know, it's a wee bit weird to enjoy the journey of that rehab. Like there's a resilience thing there. Do you know what I mean? That I came through this injury and I'm back playing, happy days. But there's another thing about, you know, returning to play and then returning to actually performance. Like that's where you want to get to, is performing on the pitch. Do you know what I mean? So it's just about enjoying the actual journey. Do you know what I mean? As you say, walk about. But the visualization thing I talked about in the mental imagery was just, when I was injured and say I knew I couldn't train, it was nearly just, I'm not like sitting there like meditating or anything. It's not like, it's driving in the car to work and just letting my mind wander about being back on the pitch playing. You know, thinking about the best game you ever played. You know, just thinking about making a last ditch block, or thinking about a game that you played in and you were unbelievable, or you had one of the best games of your days. It makes you feel good, and that making you feel good is like it's a happy chemical getting released in you. It's called dopamine, and it gets released into your blood, and it makes you feel good. It makes you like happy days, right? And it sort of gives you a wee bit of motivation and inspiration to go, maybe, right, I'm going to smash this gym session or this rehab session or whatever that may be. So I've used that, and it's helped me a lot, like, too. But it's not it's just a very simple way of maybe driving in a car or something like that and just thinking about it in my own head. Do you know, I've used it, and it's very, very useful. Like,
it is so interesting, because it's like, I had Dominic Kearns in last week, and we were talking about this and the process and all these things, and again, like, whenever you do get this so many whatever thousand in the bank, it's just, there's still I can't be happy with it myself, and enjoying, as you say, enjoying that process. And I think a lot of it comes down to, and I don't know where, like, I know it sounds a wee bit cringy and stuff, but a lot of it comes down to actually loving yourself and having respect for yourself, and telling yourself you deserve to be there, back to your prime, and back to your, and I think once we get into that sort of position, then we will get it. But that visualization is so important, and it's something that I think, I have a lot of friends, a lot of, like, Mick Conlon was in a lot of boxers, and they do it, like, constantly. They do a lot of work around that, and I think which will maybe hopefully lead us on to what we're going to talk about next. I think the GAA actually are a wee bit behind and stuff like that, even in breath work and stuff, in terms of, all that, and actually having, that inner self-confidence, because, again, like, that thing with my weight, Arron, and, like, honestly is number one for me now, but I even, like, last year before the Cork match, I remember being in my room in front of a mirror with the fucking Antrim kit on, being like, do I look alright?
Yeah.
And that sounds mad, like, but like, see, whenever I spoke about that for the first time, see the amount of people messaged me on my Instagram saying that they feel the exact same thing. But it was actually, it was with Sambo's thing, and we're talking about tight fit jerseys, and we made a laugh of it. But that actually is the thing in terms of my self-confidence and my self-worth, and the amount of energy I used up. Like, I was sitting in the stand at that Cork match before I even knew the match fucking started, to be totally honest, with all these external things going on. So, like, I used this injury as an opportunity to sort all this, to iron all this stuff out, because there are the things people don't see. People turn up on a Sunday and watch Antrim players and John's play, and just think that because you missed the tip or missed the catch or whatever, you're not your usual self. It just means you're a dick.
Yeah, no, I know.
So they don't understand the rest what comes in with it, but that'd be fair enough.
I think the important thing is there, as coaches, and even people, show empathy. You know what I mean? Because put yourself in someone else's position, or in someone else's shoes if you can, and think about it from their perspective, because you don't know what's going on in other people's lives. Like, do you know what I mean? You can be friendly with people, but you don't really know what's going on. People are struggling every day, do you know, and whatever, confidence issues, anxiety, stress, do you know, breakdown in relationships, finances, whatever it is, like, do you know, there's so many things out there, and life's hard, like, and, I would listen to, I'd listen to a lot of motivational, YouTube videos and stuff like that there, just to, if I'm driving, or and there's this guy called Les Brown, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a black African American, and came from nothing, and he's a great motivational speaker, but he always said, you will fail your way to success. You will fail your way to success. So success is just a bunch of failures before, but he always said, and it's talked about life, he says, life's hard. If life knocks you on your ass, make sure you land on your back, because if you can look up, you'll get up. I always said that was great. Do you know what I mean? Because life's hard, it'll knock you down. If you can look up, just get up. Do you know what I mean? And if you ever see the Tyson Fury time he got knocked down by Deontay Wilder and all the stuff he was going through, there was a spell there, if you watch that video, and he's lying there for a couple of seconds, and he's just thinking, if I stay down, I'm staying down forever. And somehow he just rose up. Do you know, end up, I think he drew the fight, and then, the rest is history. It was just class, like. But that's what it's about, that their sort of resilience and that their mindset that you bring to it, and as you said, loving yourself and knowing your self-worth, it's so important. Yeah,
and it's like believing, like, that no matter what, inside yourself, there's something greater inside you that is, that can get over any obstacle that's forced your way. Like, and I suppose, like these injuries that you had throughout your Antrim career, they actually come on to bounce back, to show that resilience, to show all the things that we've just spoke about, is absolutely incredible, and it's testament to you. And I think it's amazing. But even leading into, I mentioned there about the GAA maybe having more people in place to do these types of things, because to be totally honest with you, whenever I seen the Graffin player development, I was like, that's something that I probably need in my life. Because I know that all the other things I can nearly control, but some of them, the self-doubt. I maybe need that validation from you to tell me that, you know what, you're being a wee bit too deep. You need to just chill out a wee, or something like, and I know that based on that Instagram message I got after saying that thing about the jersey, that other people need it too. And we need to normalise it. Do you know what I mean? We need to create an environment where people are okay talking about these things. And it's tough. Like, it's easy for me to,
it's not easy.
Do you know what I mean? And I suppose it's not easy for you either to be so vulnerable. But I think it's important because of the people it actually could help. But you're doing that now in terms of, you set up Graffin player development, and which GPD inspires excellence by helping Gaelic Games players to develop so they can achieve their full potential. And what I love in your tagline is better people, better players, which equal better performance. And I just love the way you just have better people at the start of that, because we're talking about human beings here, not the person who just plays hurling on a Sunday. So tell me a wee bit more about Graffin player development and what you do.
Yeah, I suppose it just came out of an idea I had a couple of years ago. I'm got involved in coaching, and I just hugely love coaching. I love one of my passions is to see players become the very best versions of themselves, both on and off the pitch. And I just think within the GAA, within Gaelic Games, Gaelic football, hurling, camogie, ladies Gaelic football, there's too much blanket coaching, I would call it. Blanket coaching would be just throw a blanket over them, one size fits all. And there's a couple of reasons for why that happens, and especially in club. If you think about your club, how many times you train a week? Maybe 2 sessions a week, and then you've got a game at the weekend. And say your training session lasts an hour and a half, so that's 2 sessions. That's about 3 hours you have with a team if you're a coach. Okay, there's 160 hours in a week, and you've got them for 3 hours in a week. So you want to maximise every single second. So you are doing drills or a game, making sure the training is really good, really competitive, high intent. You're working on all the things, but how are you individually developing them players to become better? Because you're centre half forward, right? I'm a full back. Do we need the same training?
No,
we don't. Because you're dealing with puck outs, or you're going deep to pick up a ball. I'm minding the house. You know what I mean? I'm talking to my keeper. So I think there's an area for that specific one-to-one player development, that they're trying to develop you to become the best player you can be on the pitch in terms of your position, but also as a person off the pitch. So Graffin player development is pretty much a holistic player development program for the whole person. And I've got 4 key pillars in terms of your physical, your technical, your tactical, and your psychosocial. So the first 3 in terms of your physical, that's obviously, are you physically capable to carry out the game demands of playing hurling or Gaelic football or whatever that may be? Technically, are you technically astute with everything, catching, striking a ball off your left and right, dipping a ball, things like that. And then tactically, what do you like tactically? Can you carry out tactical ploys? Do you know where you need to be if you play a sweeper? Do you know where you need to be for puck outs? If there's a long free coming in, do you know where you need to be? So how do you play a certain position? So that's the tactical side. So them 3 are all on the pitch. But the psychosocial element sort of off the pitch, and it's the one that's sort of underutilised, I think, the most. And it counts for mental, which is your thinking, your well-being, okay, which is your spiritual well-being, your person off the pitch, and you trying to become the very best version of yourself in your relationships with people, in your job, and your career, and whatever that may be. Okay, and that psychosocial element is so important. It comes as also the emotional side of things. So how are you feeling off the pitch? What do you like with your relationships with your family, with your girlfriend, your partner, your boyfriend? What do you like in terms of your career? Are you happy in your job? Are you not happy in your job? So it's really asking yourself that question, why? And it sort of kicked off from, I read a book, I was talking to you earlier, I read a book by a guy called Simon Sinek. I don't know if you've heard of him. He does loads of stuff in leadership, but he wrote this book called Start With Why. And it sort of, I read it and it was just like, it blew my mind. Like, it was just really asking yourself why, and everything you do. Why do you do it? Why do you do it? Why do you do it? Why are you doing that? And it was like a light bulb moment. And it sort of just triggered, I think there's a gap in the market for this here for Gaelic Games players. And, I sort of set it all up and I was like, geez, will I let this out? Will I race this? And sort of having that self-doubt and stuff. And I spoke to my wife and she was just like, just get out there and see what happens. And we were talking about it earlier, that sort of imposter syndrome of like, geez, what will people say? And nearly thinking about people too much whenever. And then I just got out there and a lot of people reached out and thought it was a great idea and they used it, and it sort of just snowballed from there. But it's really looking at the individual within a team and how can we get the best out of Donald Nugent? How can we get the best out of you? What do we need to do? And that might be on the pitch, it might be off the pitch. Because for me, player development is if you think of your spine or your backbone, right? That's the way it was explained to me. You know, if we didn't have a spine or a backbone, we'd be lying on the ground. Like your body, the job of your backbone is to support your body, okay? And your back or your spine is made up of all these different components, like all these different vertebrae, and they all have their own job, all right? And for your spine to work efficiently, they all have to be interlinked to move smoothly. But if one of them are offline, right, it'll cause real great stress, strain. If anybody's ever back problem, it's sore, like. And that's the same in life. That's the same as a player. You know, you've got all these things in your life, career, finances, relationships, my hurling, my training, all right? And if they're all singing in harmony, that gives you the best chance to perform to your best on the pitch. But if one of them's off, that's going to affect your performance on the pitch. And the way I put it, have you ever had a row with a parent or a girlfriend or something like that there, and had training that night? How'd that training go?
You're all over the place.
You're all over the place. Your touch is crap. You know, you're missing balls. You don't want to do that extra run because your mind's not where it should be. Do you know what I mean? Because you got all this other stuff going off the field. So Graffin player development is trying to get it all synced, all in line. That's what player development is for me. It's not just about you as a player, it's about you as a person, and it's about developing you as a person, developing your performance, and hopefully developing you to be better on and off the pitch. It's something I started. It's a wee side hustle. It's sort of a wee small mini company. It's not anything massive at the minute, but it's something that I would like to grow and develop a wee bit more.
Of course, and I think like everything that you said there, all I can just keep thinking about. Right, that's me. But it's probably everybody, watching, and it's because no one's ever perfect. No one's ever made it. There's no. I always say about I'm on a journey with no destination. Like in terms of my recovery and stuff. Obviously, that's number one in my life. But even like. Before hurling, but it all comes into it. Everything just is all interlinked and intertwined, and it's something again that I've only been really properly fully been working on the last couple of months, because like even whenever I got out of rehab, that I thought that I had all that sort of stuff sorted, but like and I was well equipped then to then push on with sport and like be that person whenever people walk in that they know that I'm going to be playing. Do you know that type of thing? That's where
there's a direct correlation to being happy off the pitch and happy on the pitch.
Absolutely,
do you know what I mean? They link. And if you're happy in all your stuff outside of playing, as a person, well then you're going to be happier on the pitch. You're going to feel more free. You're not going to have this weight in your shoulders. You'll feel lighter on your feet. Just things like that. There, it makes so much sense. Like so, that's why the individual player development is so important, and it's individual. Probably people development more than player development.
But I agree with you so much, sorry, because like it's like whenever I did get out, I had a job. I was in a builder's merchant, so I was working away. Do you know what I mean? I was brought up. I was doing sales, stressful job, trying to get in this money, trying to get customers in, and I was away selling. Nothing against the jobs. I loved the jobs. Do you know what I mean? It was and the people within it, and I was away, in that sale or in the cars, driving up and down England, picking up cars, doing different things, trying to massage people's egos because they're big money people and selling them high end cars. All this. People pleasing, not being able to say no, like we just talked about, and me and Sean were talking about this morning, that it is okay to say no and put yourself first. But I was doing all these things, Arron, and chasing things that weren't really that important in terms of what my goals were. So my life wasn't in a line with my goals. And it's something that I've just been made aware of, and I'm like, Jesus, what have you been doing? You're running like a lunatic. But it all links to why I'm not that person whenever people walk in the Antrim or open up the programme and see my name, because of all this madness that's going on inside my life. So now that I'm aware, like I've stripped everything back, I'm like, what is my purpose? What is my daily life in alignment with what I want to get out of it? And it is now, because I'm back working in the rehab centre, because that's my purpose in giving back. I'm not stressed out. I'm not worried about money, even though I'm skint. I'm not. Do you know what I mean? It's not important.
It's that fulfilment you're probably chasing. Do you know what I mean? You always think you're looking for something else, but it's that being happy in your own skin and just chasing that fulfilment and that passion, whatever that may be. Like I often say, what would you do for free? If you had no money, that's it. If you had no money, or if you had 2 million in the bank, what would you do for free as a job? You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's really what you're looking for, do you know? And player development is a huge passion area of mine. Like I say, I get huge passion and energy out of seeing people become better, become the best version of themselves, developing and growing and improving in whatever area of life that may be. Do you know what I mean? It gives me great fulfillment and gives me great energy. Like, it's great.
Class, unreal. And then I suppose even going in and moving into the next part of it, I could actually sit and talk about that thing with you all day. And I'm just sitting going, I need to work with him. But even going on to the next part, and it's something that I had Chris Kerr on, I had Cahill McShane on, GA people who, and then myself who have all been. I don't want to undersell the GPA here because I think like it's I don't know how highly enough to speak of them in terms of how they helped us three even, but even just for me in terms of like the Gaelic Players Association did save my life, and I'm not going to make two ways about it. And with people within the GA and stuff, like saved my life. But I spoke before to Chris about the helpline that he used, the helpline that I used, the counselling I got provided with, the getting in the rehab and stuff like that had a massive impact. You have now, I suppose, after throwing out Graffin player development, telling the sort of world of the GA world, if you like, that this is what you do and this is where you want to be. Maybe I don't know, but just talking to you before, you were in a similar sort of situation with me in terms of work. You worked in a transport company. You know what the people that were good. It was a good job. You were there for 14 years, but now you know what your purpose is. GPA came along. Tell me a wee bit more about your new venture in life.
I recently started a job with the GPA as a player development manager. And I suppose I played inter-county hurling to 2018. So my first full season out of the inter-county bubble was 2019. It was the end of the season. I got to there and I sort of started to self-reflect on my job, my career, and I started to realise that I haven't really progressed in my career a massive amount. Working for a great company, working with great people, a great team in an industry, transport, shipping, which was very fast-paced, very dynamic, very fluid. You had to be adaptable. So it taught great skills. I worked in sales as well, so I sold our service. So dealing with customers, you know, trying to lock down some business and stuff like that there, which was great. But you know, whenever I step back and look at it, it wasn't my passion. I wasn't fulfilled by it. I didn't get out of bed excited about going to work. It was a job. And I really realised I'd done that for, you know, at that time it was 12 years to facilitate me to play at the highest level. Because, you know, I didn't have huge stress in the job. I went and did my job to the best of my ability. Then I could play and train Antrim and Cusendall, which was great. But it was sort of the tail end of 2019. I said I read that book and it sort of was a light bulb moment. And I actually reached out to the GPA too. I reached out and I said, look, I'm at a crossroads in my career. I'm in a job that I'm not overly passionate about. I don't know what I want to do, but I know I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. And they set me up with a life coach and I went and met him and we had a chat, just really informal. And we sort of got an action plan together about what are you interested in, what do you like? And at that time, interested hugely in coaching, leadership, personal development, player development, performance development. That's what I was massively interested in. But, you know, it was all scattered. There was no sort of action plan in place. So we decided, let's go and upskill. And that was 2020 when COVID kicked in, so there was nothing happening. So you had so much free time in your hand. So I was doing online courses, I was doing online webinars, I was trying to upskill in different areas, and I decided to go back and do a master's degree in Jordanstown in sports coaching and performance. And that just opened my mind up to so much learning and so much, it just whet my appetite for more. It just made me thirsty for more knowledge. So I started to understand the ins and outs, the theory behind coaching and performance and how it works. It was class, like, and it introduced me to some great people and some great academics, and sort of snowballed from there. I just finished that degree in 2021 September, and then the Graffin player development idea came up, and I went and did a diploma in sports psychology. And then I'm actually just finishing a certificate in youth athletic development from Satanta College. It's an online-based college. But in that time, I was like, right, I think I've upskilled enough. I've learned. Let's go and try to, look for some employment in this area. And I did go for a number of jobs, which maybe got to the final stages of or got knocked back. And that was that disappointments. And, you're like, this is building, something's going to happen. And, this job in the GPA come up and it was, player development manager. And I just mind... Whenever I seen the job pop up, I think I seen it on Twitter, and I just showed it to my wife, Sarah Louise, and I just look at that there, and she, go for that there, because that's right down your street. And I went for it, and I got successful and got it. I'm in a space now where I'm working day to day with inter-county players, trying to help them, trying to develop them, trying to guide them in whatever path they may go down. And it's funny, as you're saying, it's went full circle because. Yeah. I reached out to the GPA, and now, hopefully people will be reaching out to me, and I can try to help them, guide them on their path or their journey or whatever development area they want to go on. So it's a cool wee story, and I'm now waking up fulfilled and with passion about doing my job, and just really feel in a privileged position to be in, and grateful for the opportunity to be with the GPA now, because they do great work. Unreal.
It's amazing. And I know the management within the GPA do make county players aware and stuff, and have sometimes whenever you're in them meetings you don't really listen that much. So in terms of so if I'm a county player, how can you help me, and how can I reach out to you?
So you may have whatever issue you have going on in your life. It could be anything. You can reach out. So the GPA have a player development program called the BO360.
Yeah.
And what it is an individualised, tailored player development program specifically for inter-county players. And it's tailored to you and to your needs and whatever that may be. And there's 4 key pillars in terms of life skills, transition, dual career and well-being. And under for them 4 key pillars is a number of services that the GPA offer, the player development section. And it could be something simple as you're transitioning from college into a young professional and you need help with interview skills, or you need help getting your CV tallied up. We can offer you support if you're a county player. You may be struggling with anxiety or stress or coping, whatever. We can get you help, as you said, that 24/7 counselling helpline, and it can be anonymous. Like you can go and talk to them and get help, whatever. There's so many different strands to it that we can help with and try to support you, and it's just a great area to be in. So the way it is, you would just link in with us on the website, send us an email. There's a section you go on to and you can link in with the player development coach. It could be myself, it could be a team member, and we can just sit down with you over a coffee, or if you feel more comfortable on Zoom or on Microsoft Teams online, we can do that, and just figure out what you need and what help you support you need, and we can try to get a plan in place to do that. And very fulfilling, and trying to help people off the pitch. Like, it's nothing to do with on the pitch stuff. You do that with Arron Graffin and all your squads and all. This is off the field activities. So how can you improve, develop, grow, become the best version of yourself off the field, and whatever it may be? Do you know what I mean? So it's a really exciting place. There's a great team. They do great work, and it's a brilliant association to be a part of.
Class. And you can even feel, you talk about that the same way I talk about Cumara.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's that passion, it's that drive, and you can feel the energy off you. Even like everything about you can just feel that energy off you. And I just can't help but think that there's a reason why Neil McManus has them powerful things to say about you. He's the only person I asked, to be totally honest, but I'm sure if I went around that whole your Cusendall dressing room, or even your Antrim dressing room at the time, they would all have amazing words to say about you, because you can just feel it with someone. It's every now and again you do meet them types of people, and you just have that energy and that presence, and you have it, and I think it's fantastic. But you mentioned Sarah Louise there, who is also I'm not going to say she's a better hurler on you, but she's
she definitely is. She definitely is.
Fair enough. I was thinking it anyway, but who's obviously been very, very successul with Down Camogues. You have a beautiful daughter, Cara. So how's that sort of life for you going?
Yeah, like you don't know what you don't know until you know it. Do you know what I mean? So it's really exciting. The best thing that ever happened. Do you know, at the time, you're just sort of, baby comes and you're just, look after this child. Like, you don't know what you're doing, but you just sort of figure it out as you go along. And it's great. Every day is fantastic. Seeing her wake up is brilliant. And Sarah Louise, to be fair to her, she's very driven as well, and she takes her camogie quite serious as well. So she got back to play for her club this year, and they won a club championship with Down, and they went on and won an Ulster. And this weekend, Clonduff. This weekend they're playing in an All-Ireland semi-final, so it's great for her, and she's motivated to go back and play for Down next year, camogie. So, and that's great for her, because she comes from a GAA background. Her sister played as well, and her brothers as well, and her father's Ross Carr. So they're steeped in sort of GAA down in Clonduff, and it's a great place to be. But yeah, she's driven, and she can definitely. I'd say you throw 10 balls up between me and her, she'll come out with about 8 in her hand. I might break one and flick another one away. So yeah, she's great.
No, but that's brilliant. And even in terms of Sambo said something on this podcast too, and he says I know he's a wee bit stubborn and a wee bit, but he said the best thing you can do for your children is pick them a good mother. And and I was like, do you know what? It sort of sort of hit me, and I was like, I know he is, and he's a funny way of his words and stuff, but he's kind of right in a way. And how important is that to have? And we talked about it in alignment there with goals and purposes and stuff, and what we do in our daily lives. So how important is that to actually meet someone? Because it's so often that things just happen, as you say. Do you know what I mean? You end up falling in with someone, and then all of a sudden don't have an awful lot in common. Like, so how important is that for, I suppose, for anybody to meet that right person at that right time? Or
we met back in Jordan or university when we were in the Holy Lands running about. But that empathy thing, like, you know, I understand exactly what she's going through playing, you know, County Camogie. Yeah. She understood the same with me with commitments, and you know, I live down in Hilltown now, which isn't close to Cusendall. It's 84 miles, so you know, if I'm going up to training, and if I got matches up there, you know, she understands, because that's my club and that's where I'm from. Like, you know, and I still have passion and energy to do that. So, you know, there's a great understanding there. But then as you get a bit older, like I'm 34 now, as you get a bit older, and a baby comes along, like your goals and things change in your life. So,
yes, of course.
You know, priorities change a wee bit. So, you know, when I was younger, I was early mid-20s, like I was very tunnel vision, focused, driven. Nothing get in my road. This is where I want it to be. Like, I wanted to, you know, play with the best players in Antrim. I wanted to play against the best players in the country. Like, so everything else outside of that came nearly second. Yeah. But when you get a bit older, you realise, you know, your peripheral vision becomes a wee bit acuter, and you know, become a wee bit more switched on, and you understand, like, you know, the important things in life, and that's family, and that's their number one. After that, and then you put your things down below that. So, but it's great. It's fatherhood. Yeah, it's been absolutely unreal. Like, do you know what I mean? So it's brilliant. It's
class.
Yeah.
A long way to continue.
Yeah.
But listen, Arron, I could sit and talk to you for an hour. Honestly, I don't even think I covered half the things I wanted to talk about there. But it was an absolute...
We'll do a part two.
We'll do a part two after you get settled in and stuff with the GPA and start, and maybe someday be an Antrim senior hurling manager. Is that
well, I see myself more as a coach. Like, do you know what I mean? I like dealing with players on the pitch. Like, maybe let somebody else do the managing.
Something like that anyway in the pipeline someday.
Yeah. No, I do enjoy coaching. I was involved with Antrim under 20s as well, which I think that group's great. It's a great group of lads who are passionate, want to become better and grow and develop too. So it's a good group to be with. But I see myself more in the coaching sort of side of things, working with players. Yeah. So, but we'll see.
Happy days. Yeah. Who knows? But no, thanks again for coming on. Like, and I suppose anyone who wants to check out Arron's page, it's Graffin PD across Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Some of the things he's putting up is brilliant. I think I've shared a couple of different things that he's put up as well. So absolutely fantastic. And I suppose anyone who isn't an inter-county player, you can reach out to Arron directly through Graffin Player Development, because there is a massive void even within the club scene too, in terms of player development and getting the best versions out of ourselves. So yeah, go head up Arron's page and give him a follow and a share or whatever, and help support Graffin Player Development. And again, just we'll stick the link below to our live event in January. But yeah, other than that, thanks very much for tuning in, and I will see you all next week. Thank you, mate.
No bother. All right. Good stuff. Good.